Married in secret for 3 years, Sean's first love returned to her home country. He invested in remaking Wild Love, dedicating it to his only leading lady. He told me, "I only see you as a little sister." By then, I was already pregnant. I gave up hope completely and threw my wedding ring into the trash. Later, the filming location where I was at was struck by an earthquake. It was said that Sean hiked for 6 hours and dug through the rubble with bloody fingers. When reporters asked about our relationship, I smiled and answered, "He's my brother." I came out of the hospital holding the checkup report. The weather was fine. A bright smile adorned my lips. I couldn't wait to share the good news with Sean. I was pregnant, and he was going to be a father. But as soon as I took out my phone, the smile on my face vanished. The news notification read, "Genius director Sean invests in remaking Wild Love, with her as the leading lady." I clicked on it. Laura's photo stood out. Social media erupted. "My dream has come true. Sean brings back his leading lady." Back then, Sean tailor-made Wild Love for Laura. Love like wildfire, burning eternally. Sean declared his grand love for Laura to the whole world. But, due to capital manipulation, the leading lady that rightfully belonged to Laura was snatched away. Sean was powerless to resist. Facing reporters' questions, he shook his head in bitterness. No choice. The desolation in his eyes was evident. Now, facing reporters once again, Sean smiled. Wishes granted. He looked at Laura, his gaze utmost tender. "She is the only leading lady of this movie." Laura was moved to tears, shimmering with emotion. This scene went viral on various platforms. Everyone cheered and celebrated this reunion, except for me, feeling out of place, because I was Sean's secretly wed wife. I didn't know when the checkup report fell on the ground. A car passed by, and then, it vanished without a trace. I looked up at the sun. Suddenly, it felt too bright. Sean and I were childhood friends. I had secretly fallen in love with him a long time ago. To be closer to him, I applied to film school. But when I walked in, Sean showed up with his girlfriend to meet me. "This is the person I love the most." He looked at Laura beside him with a depth of affection I had never seen before. "This is my sister," he introduced me. From then on, I could only bury my crush deep in my heart. I witnessed them deeply in love, promising to fulfill their dreams together. Later, they broke up because of poverty. It could be said that Wild Love unleashed all the grievances they had suffered due to poverty. Laura went abroad and never returned. "It's hard to understand, right?" I asked Sean. He took a drag of his cigarette and exhaled slowly. His features blurred in the smoke. His voice became soft. "I've let it go. It's all in the past. People have to look forward." Sean put out the cigarette and held my hand. "Jesse, you're my present. I'll strive to be a good husband." My marriage with Sean originated from his mother's matchmaking. Auntie saw that I liked Sean, and she was worried that he wouldn't move on from his past relationship. She always created opportunities for us, intentionally or unintentionally. I never expected that Sean would actually propose to me. Maybe he didn't like me that much yet. Maybe he was just compromising with reality. But being together with someone I had liked for 10 years was too tempting. I was swayed. In the 3 years of our marriage, I worked hard to nurture it. We gradually became like a normal couple. Our lives had sweet moments too. I thought we would keep going like this forever, until I saw the news, and suddenly it all made sense. No wonder Sean had been so busy lately, not responding to messages, and only coming home late at night. It turns out he had long planned it, to make amends with Laura on her first day back in the country. And I never knew. I was planning to surprise him with the pregnancy. It was late. I called Sean several times, but he didn't answer any of them. I had to contact his assistant, Bob. "Do you know where Sean is?" Bob was hesitant on the phone. He simply said Sean was still at the party and it hadn't ended. "Is he drinking too much? Should I come pick him up?" Bob sounded nervous. "Sis, don't come. It's over. I'll take Sean back." I sat on the sofa waiting. At the moment the door opened, I froze in place. Laura was standing at the door supporting Sean's arm. She saw me with surprise. "Jesse, are you staying at Sean's house recently?" Her impression of me was still stuck in the past. Back then, I was Sean's little sister, but now, I am Sean's wife. I suddenly felt a bit of bitterness about our secret marriage. Sean said he didn't want to affect my rising acting career. So, except for close ones, no one knew about this marriage. Naturally, Laura, who was far away, didn't know. She didn't know that I wasn't just temporarily staying at Sean's house, but I had shared a bed with him for 3 full years. Why are you standing there? Laura called out familiarly to me, asking me to help support your brother. She patted Sean's flushed face, complaining about how heavy he was. I didn't know how I managed to walk over. Laura was still complaining about how much Sean had been drinking tonight. The entire crew couldn't stop him. Maybe he was just happy. She smiled and said, to lose and then to find back is not easy. Sean leaned toward me, and I held his arm. Suddenly, he jerked away from my hand as if startled, gripping Laura tightly, looking uneasy. Laura, don't leave. He pleaded like a wandering child, continuously begging, don't leave me. Laura soothingly reassured him, her voice gentle. I'm not leaving, and I won't leave again. Only then did Sean calm down. I looked down at my rejected hand. A corner of my heart accelerated into collapse. I wanted to tell Laura that Sean and I were married, but I lost my courage all in a sudden. You're married? Laura couldn't believe it, her voice sharp as it yanked me out of my emotions. I followed her gaze. There hung our wedding photo with Sean, prominently displayed in the living room. Laura, Sean, apparently triggered by this word, came back to his senses from the haze in his eyes. He unconsciously called out Laura's name, but when his eyes met Laura's brimming with tears, he fell silent once again. Pain filled his eyes. I stood there, feeling a chill running through my body. Sean. I heard myself calling out, my voice trembling. Do you still see me in your eyes? Sean paused for a moment, then turned stiffly. Finally, his gaze shifted to his wife. At that moment, Laura forcefully shook off Sean's hand, crying as she ran out. The gaze that had been fixed on me disappeared. Sean took a step to follow. After a few steps, he stopped. I held my breath, hoping against hope. Jessie, I'll go find her first. It's late. It's not safe for her alone as a woman. If he turned around, he would see me standing there dejectedly. The light in his eyes dimmed inch by inch. As his figure disappeared, I collapsed to the ground weakly. Tears kept streaming down my face. I had never been so acutely aware before. In Sean's heart, no one could compare to Laura. As long as Laura appeared, Sean's gaze would always follow her. I touched my belly, feeling a deep sense of sorrow. 10 years of affection meant nothing. 3 years of marriage meant nothing. What about my child? As I rejoiced in her arrival, perhaps Sean had long been preparing to run towards someone else. The clock on the wall ticked away. The floor grew colder. My emotions spiraled out of control. Thinking of my child, I struggled to stand up with my feeble body. I turned off all the lights and lay down in bed. The darkness around me closed in from all sides. Only a sliver of moonlight shone through the window onto me. I stared at it, lost in thought. Sean used to be like that moonlight to me. We were neighbors, not particularly close at first. I grew up without a mother, and my father ignored me. Naturally, I became the target of bullying at school, because no one would stick up for me, until Sean accidentally discovered the hidden scars on my body. When I was bullied once again, he swooped in like a godsend. You all like to bully her, don't you? He didn't hesitate to fight back, apologize to her. I watched as the usually arrogant person begged for forgiveness, and Sean stood there with a stern expression. At that moment, I felt Sean was radiant. Why didn't you speak up, after being bullied for so long? Sean walked me home, a frown etched on his face. I spoke softly. Speaking up won't help. He paused, then reached out to touch my head. It helps when it's me. After that, no one dared to bully me again, because I had a brother now. A brother who promised to always protect me. He even welcomed me into his family. His uncle and aunt were kind, showing me care I had never experienced before from Sean. Falling in love with Sean felt natural to me. My dream was to follow Sean. So, after high school, I chose to attend the same school just to be closer to him. But then he met Laura. Watching him love Laura so passionately, I couldn't help but envy. And the distance between us kept growing. I thought sadly, chasing after someone may not always lead to a conclusion, until they definitively broke up, and Sean proposed to me. I felt like I was walking on air. Above the clouds was the moon I had always wanted to be closer to. At that time, I naively believed it was a sign from above. I was meant to be Sean's future, but it turned out to be a cruel joke from above. Years of pursuit finally came to an end. I needed to give up. In the quiet room, I drew the curtains, shutting out that sliver of moonlight. In the early morning, Sean came home quietly, but I still heard him. I walked out silently, turned on the light. He saw me, looking somewhat unnerved. You're not asleep yet, Sean, I interrupted. Let's get divorced. My tone was calm, as if it were the smallest matter. I even flashed a faint smile. Laura's back. I'll make way for you too. With a meter between us, I watched Sean. His expression was one of shock, as if he had never expected me to say such a thing. The air chilled for a few seconds. I wasn't backing down. His voice suddenly rose, his expression turning ugly. I rarely saw Sean like this, unintentionally taking a step back. Realizing his mistake, Sean composed himself. He walked over, speaking more gently. It's not what you think between Laura and me. As if I was making baseless accusations. I couldn't help but feel a burst of anger. Not what I think. Then what is it? I dodged his attempted touch, my voice trembling. Is it that you openly admit you can't forget her? Is it that you hold onto her tightly in front of your wife? Or that you only care about her pain, not mine? As I finished speaking, a tear fell on my hand. I turned away, wiping away the tears that welled up. Some things, upon closer examination, were unbearably painful. It wasn't as simple as I had hoped. Sean was speechless. Finally, he quietly admitted, I still have feelings for her, but I know I'm married. That's enough. I turned away, feeling weary. There was a faint pain in my belly. I reached out, apologizing softly. I'm sorry, baby, for keeping you awake. The next day, Laura asked to meet with me. In the coffee shop, her eyes were slightly red, looking a bit weary, as if she had cried harshly the day before. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yesterday. I didn't know. She hesitated, then spoke with difficulty. You two are married. I stirred my milk quietly, not saying a word. I heard that you and Sean argued because of me. She looked at me, forcing a smile, tinged with reluctance and sorrow. You don't have to worry, we're both in the past tense. Her voice was soft, with a hint of a choked-up feeling. We missed our chance. So you two must be happy. With that, a tear rolled down her cheek. Laura quickly turned away and wiped her tears. I couldn't help but pity her, but also felt a sense of irritation. She seemed unable to forget, yet tried to wish me happiness in a magnanimous manner. I suddenly remembered. It was the same with Sean last night, admitting his feelings for Laura while refusing to divorce. It seems like I am the reason they can't be together. For me, they hold back their love for each other. It's ridiculous. I actually laughed out loud. At that moment, Sean came over. Laura, why are you crying? He hurriedly grabbed a tissue from the table and wiped Laura's tears. Once again, there was no me in his eyes. My heart had already become numb. Laura glanced at me, reaching out to refuse. You should care about Jessie. She's your wife. Sean stiffened, retracted his hand, and slowly sat next to me. A long silence. Jessie, Sean began, suddenly stood up. Laura, you're having an allergy. Laura screamed and quickly covered her face. She realized there's milk in the coffee. Laura is allergic to milk, and I knew that. Once when we were shopping, I bought her a milk tea. Suddenly red patches appeared on Laura's face. Sean rushed over, picked her up, and took her to the hospital. Afterwards, Sean was full of blame towards me. The look on his face told me that Laura was his most precious treasure. Now, the scene was playing out again. Sean expertly lifted Laura and rushed out. His face showed genuine worry. I was left behind, looking at the coffee on the table. I felt somewhat strange. Laura had ordered the coffee in advance. She clearly knew she was allergic to milk. So why add milk to the coffee? I remembered the past. I handed Laura the milk tea, and she didn't refuse. It was only after seeing her rushed to the hospital that I learned about her milk allergy. At that time, I was overwhelmed with guilt and anxiety. I didn't think much about why she would drink that milk tea, when she clearly knew she was allergic to milk. Comparing the two scenarios, what remained constant was Sean's concern. And there was me, constantly being overlooked. Something slowly surfaced in my mind. I dared to speculate about Laura with the worst intentions. Perhaps she did it on purpose. The purpose was to make me understand her place in Sean's heart. Love is a fire too warm to hide. So my feelings for Sean were obvious to his mother. And Laura back then also saw it. She made me back off in this way. Is it the same now? I don't want to think about it anymore. Anyway, I have decided to get a divorce. I grabbed my bag and left, heading to the law firm. My request was a divorce agreement. That night, when I returned home, I opened the chat box, wanting to send Sean a message. But then I saw the chat history from a few days ago. A surprise is coming soon. In 3 hours. What? I thought to myself, feeling absent-minded. I had been feeling tired and sick during that period. With a mix of anticipation and anxiety, I bought a pregnancy test. The waiting time seemed to stretch endlessly, until I saw 2 lines. I almost burst into tears of joy. My vision of that warm home was getting one step closer. I couldn't wait. So I messaged Sean calling it a surprise. Considering the possibility of the pregnancy test being inaccurate, I didn't finish my sentence. I planned to go to the hospital, confirm everything, and then tell him. However, I never had the chance to share this news. Sean never asked. I chuckled to myself. He had all his attention focused on Laura. Why would he care about what I said? I'm at home waiting for you. I sent the message. My state of mind was completely different from before. When Sean came back, I was sitting on the couch watching a comedy, laughing to the point of bending over. I didn't even hear him come back. Sean coughed at the door. I glanced over without any reaction. His brow furrowed. It was the first time I didn't greet him as I used to. showing my affection towards him. Soon, he casually said, "What are you looking at? Why are you so happy?" He walked over, his hand instinctively reaching to pat my head. The lingering scent of perfume wafted over, Laura's favorite scent. Suddenly, I felt nauseous and subconsciously avoided it. He wanted to pretend everything was normal, but I refused to cooperate. Sean's hand fell back empty. He looked puzzled, then his tone turned heavy. "Jesse." This was the first time he showed displeasure. In the past, I would have cooed at him softly, but now, I didn't want to. The atmosphere was tense. I looked away and muted the TV. "I've drafted a divorce agreement. Sign it when the time comes." Sean's face instantly darkened, his voice filled with anger. "Jesse, have you had enough now?" I didn't understand. I had been tactful enough. Why was he still not satisfied? I moved Laura's seat. "Are you not happy?" I asked, tilting my head in confusion. Sean smirked. "You're quite generous." I lowered my head, my voice soft, because I have self-awareness. Someone who doesn't belong to me. No matter how much I chase, it's pointless. So let's get a divorce. I mentioned divorce 3 times, and Sean finally snapped. Through clenched teeth, he agreed. "Fine. Don't regret it." I stayed silent for a few seconds. Seeing my reaction, Sean's expression relaxed slightly, a hint of a smirk appearing. It seemed like he was certain that I would regret it. But I said, "Rest assured, I won't regret it." Sean suddenly exploded. He was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, angrily stating, "I won't regret it either. Don't think for a moment that my reluctance to divorce is because I like you so much. I only like Laura. I only see you as a sister. If it weren't for our parents' matchmaking, I wouldn't have married you." His words rushed out, as if he urgently needed to prove something. I looked at him with unfamiliar eyes, unable to comprehend that he would say such things. "Sean, you are the one who proposed to me. I never forced you. After 3 years of marriage, you tell me to treat you like a sister. Would you hug and kiss your sister? Would you have a child with your sister?" Bringing up the topic of children in such a situation, he froze, murmuring, "What? I don't want to talk about it anymore." Disappointment evident in his eyes. Suddenly, I felt that Sean was not worthy of my affection. Without hesitation, I yanked off my wedding ring, tossed it into the trash can, and walked out. As the door closed behind me, Sean angrily threw his phone, something breaking with a loud crash. I returned to the set to shoot the final scenes. In the meantime, the divorce papers were ready. I sent them to Sean, but received no response. Work was too busy. My state of mind was not great, so I could only finish filming before approaching Sean for the divorce. Just as I was waiting for a scene, the phone suddenly rang. It was Sean's mother. After adjusting my emotions, I answered, "Mom, Sean's been in a bad mood lately, exploding at the slightest thing." She continued, "I know Laura's back, and that makes you uncomfortable. It's okay to have arguments, but life has to go on. It hasn't been easy for you too." "Yes, it hasn't been easy," I replied. "My affection prefers silence, waiting patiently for 10 years before this marriage came along. So, I worked hard to nurture this hard-earned relationship, hoping it would bloom into something beautiful. But now, the flower won't bloom. I don't want to wait anymore. But I am serious." A dead silence filled the air. Suddenly, a sound of a door slamming shut came from the phone. "Sean." She paused, sighing. "What are you doing?" "He and Laura had a history. You are not unaware of that. You two are already married. Laura's return won't change that. Sean isn't reshooting the film to reignite old flames with her. He just wants to make up for past regrets and put a definitive end to that chapter. Don't overthink it." She rambled on over the phone. I interjected, "Do you believe the things you're saying?" There was a pause on the other end. I saw my assistant gesturing outside the window. "I have more scenes to shoot. Gotta go." The call ended abruptly. After the film wrapped up, "I didn't have any work scheduled for you." My agent Mary patted my shoulder, looking concerned. "Take care of yourself." I joked, "My health is fine." Mary disapproved. "But I heard you haven't been eating much lately." She gestured at my slimmer figure. "Look, you've lost weight." I fell silent. Sean had occupied a significant part of my youth. Now, I was determined to drive him out. It wasn't easy. I could hold it together in front of others, but my emotions were fragile behind closed doors. Habit is a scary thing. The years of affection had become a part of me. Even though I knew he wasn't worth it, I couldn't help but think of Sean. Sometimes, the tormenting pain would push me to beg Sean for forgiveness. I refused, so I had to struggle hard, enduring the pain of withdrawal. It's the same expression again. Mary pinched my face like a soulless zombie. I tried to force a smile. Unable to bear it, Mary pulled me into a hug, whispering softly, "Jessie, hang in there. Everything will be okay." I blinked my dry eyes. "Okay. When your child is born, She gently described the future in my ear. I placed my hand on my stomach, listening. The anticipation of the future gradually lifted the clouds of the present. I knew Sean had become a festering wound on me, and without a thorough cleanse, it would never heal. Though the process was painful, as long as I endured it, everything would be okay. There were still many beautiful things in life waiting for me. So, Jessie, don't be too sad. During breaks in filming, I searched online for a list of parenting books. News about Sean and Youre once again trended. I clicked on it without much thought. During the movie's launch event, a journalist asked a question. We all know Wild Love tells a story of passionate love, and the lead actors are right in front of us. I'm curious, years later, is there a possibility of reconciliation between the two of you? Youre blushed, seeming a bit shy. She glanced at Sean and evasively replied, "Let fate decide." Sean was more composed. He said officially, "I hope everyone focuses more on the movie itself. Personal life details are not for public disclosure." Youre quickly echoed his statement with a smile, her eyes betraying a hint of disappointment. Perhaps distracted, Youre stumbled as she exited. Instinctively, Sean reached out to catch her. She fell into his arms, looking up at him. Their lips brushed, leaving behind an ambiguous mark. Their eyes met. This scene was as beautiful as a movie itself. Surprisingly, I felt calm. I even had the mind to think, Youre truly hasn't faced the camera in years. Her reaction was too awkward, unable to conceal her true feelings. Of course, it could also be intentional, but I didn't care anymore. I smiled. It seemed that the desensitization therapy over these past months had not been in vain. I often revisited images of Sean and Youre together, torturing myself with the memories. Now, seeing them again, I no longer felt any emotions. I flipped through the calendar. The day of wrapping up the filming was approaching. The day when Sean and I would divorce should be scheduled as well. After the final scene was shot, I politely declined the crew's idea of a wrap-up feast for me. Around the corner, someone unexpected stopped me. "Lucy, she is Mr. Lee's mistress, delicate and sweet on the surface, but with a bit of sharpness and stubbornness underneath." Our interactions were mostly theatrical, so I was puzzled. "What's up?" She led me to a quiet, deserted place, a small grove. "Do you know what a crush is?" she suddenly asked. "What?" I was a bit confused. She continued, as if to herself, "As long as she stands there, everyone else pales in comparison." Lucy looked at me and asked, "What do you think?" I felt eerie. It wasn't until her next words that it all made sense. "Youre is that flawless, radiant moon, and you are just dull dust on the ground. Isn't the difference between you and her clear enough to Sean?" She stepped closer, questioning, "So, why won't you sign the divorce agreement?" "Youre, Lucy, turns out they are family." Sean's affair with Youre was an open secret, but my own marriage was almost unknown to anyone else. It dawned on me, did Youre send you? Otherwise, Lucy wouldn't know all this. I just didn't understand why. It was Sean who refused to sign the divorce agreement all along. So how did it suddenly become that I didn't want to? Lucy looked irritated. "I came on my own accord. I just can't stand people like you, meddling in someone else's true love. Do you know you're like a mistress?" I nearly burst out laughing. "Sean and I got married 2 years after they broke up," I replied coldly. "Do they even have a right to speak of true love? Youre went abroad. She isn't dead. If they really loved each other, why didn't they try to find each other all this time? Why did Sean even marry me?" I lost interest and turned to leave. Lucy suddenly rushed over and shoved me. "You're talking nonsense." I was pushed to the ground. My body rolled, hitting a tree. As Lucy looked at my disheveled appearance, about to mock me, she saw the blood spreading beneath me. Her pupils dilated in shock and horror. I stared blankly at the pool of blood. My head was buzzing, as if I couldn't hear anything. I fumbled for my phone, trembling to unlock the screen. As the emergency center answered the call, I tried to stifle my sobs, my teeth chattering. "Please, save me. Save my child." I slipped into unconsciousness. I felt my stomach slowly grow empty and cold. When I woke up, I asked, "Is the baby okay?" The assistant was a recent graduate, never having faced a situation like this before, her face turning pale. Hearing my question, she couldn't speak. I understood. I stared vacantly into space. Suddenly, I started pounding myself. "It's all my fault, all my fault." Tears streamed down my face. Mary, who had hurried over, embraced me, soothingly whispering, "Why did I go with her? Why did I argue with her? I could have been more careful." I cried, hitting my own head. Mary gripped my hand tightly. "Jessie, it's not your fault." Her voice choked up as well. "Don't blame yourself." I collapsed into Mary's arms, crying uncontrollably. "Mary, my baby is gone. I remembered the parenting books I had read. I remembered the baby items in the shopping cart. I remembered dreaming of making her the happiest child in the world, even without a father. But now, everything shattered before my eyes. Sean arrived. Laura was with him. As soon as I saw them, my eyes turned red. I grabbed a cup from the table and hurled it towards them. The ceramic cup shattered on the ground. Splinters grazed Laura's ankle. Looking pitifully at Sean, she called out his name with a hurt expression. For the first time, Sean ignored her. He looked at me, incredulously asking, "Do we really have a child?" "No." Sean visibly breathed a sigh of relief. Apparently it was all just rumors. I had no idea my story had gone viral. The terms unwed mother and miscarriage had pinned me to the pillar of shame. And at that time, Sean and Laura were wandering the campus again. "That was my child," I said. I glared at them, full of hatred, but now, it's gone. Sean froze in place. "Do you know how it disappeared?" I asked myself, answering, "It's your indulgence, Laura's instigation, Lucy's attack. I never harmed you. Why did you have to hurt me? Why did you have to hurt my child?" I shouted hoarsely, picking up one object after another from the table and hurling them at them. "Jesse, you're out of your mind," Laura screamed, dodging. Sean remained motionless. The commotion in the room quickly attracted nurses. "The patient's emotions are unstable now. Please leave and don't disturb her." The door was closed. I silently shed tears. The assistant, trembling in the corner, walked over, her hand tentatively patting my back. When I found out we couldn't punish Lucy, I fell silent for a long time. That place was remote, without surveillance cameras. We had no evidence, and with Mr. Lee backing Lucy, promising to compensate you, pushing further would do us no good, Mary said objectively. In the end, I nodded. Mary gently touched my head. "I want to go out for a while." I looked out the window. The weather outside was great. Blue sky, white clouds, bright sunshine, full of vitality, completely different from me. Mary readily agreed, of course. Before leaving, Sean and I got divorced. Sean knelt and begged me to forgive him. He said we could start over. He said we would have another child. I said, "It's not her anymore. She won't come back, because Mom didn't protect her, couldn't even seek revenge. She must not like me anymore." I walked alone to many places. Later, I met a stranger. As we chatted, I calmly talked about my past, my deceased mother and indifferent father, my husband, long pursued, who disappointed me, the child I longed for who suddenly left. I said, "It seems like my family is never complete." She sighed, "Life, it's bitter like a song. Everyone bears scars, but we still have to live our best. Isn't life about being hurt and healed, watching people come and go?" I nodded. We didn't share too many thoughts about each other's stories. Everyone has their own path to walk. When we parted, she said, "I wish you courage, and a little more luck." We touched our glasses of water as a farewell. I decided to start life anew, auditioning for various roles, returning to the set, focusing on honing my skills. Even the director praised my improved acting. I said, "Maybe it's from experiencing a lot. Actors need their own life experiences to understand those feelings that most people avoid. Pain, sorrow, despair, helplessness. When you have first-hand experience, acting won't be superficial. As long as you continue to work hard like this, I believe you have a bright future ahead." The director patted my shoulder, his gaze approving. I lowered my eyes and smiled lightly. Sometimes Sean would show up on set. Apparently, he often clashed with Laura, causing delays in the film's progress. I didn't care. I just ignored him whenever I saw him. One time, Sean grabbed my sleeve, begging, "Jesse, please don't ignore me, okay?" I remained unmoved. "Even if you hit me or curse me, it's all fine." His face was haggard, humble to the core. I brushed off his hand, saying word by word, "Sean, please stop disturbing my life." Sean's eyes filled with pain. He spoke hoarsely, "I'm sorry, Jesse. I was wrong. I'm really sorry." Tears welled up in his eyes. I sighed, left him where he stood, and walked away briskly. I landed a new role, very special. A deaf-mute person abducted to the countryside. She was treated as a tool for procreation, abused by her family, maltreated. Silent suffering, yet deafening. For this role, I secluded myself to learn, and went to shoot on location in the deep mountains. During breaks in filming, I rarely talked to anyone. Only a little dog accompanied me. It was the character's only redemption. The little dog was named 11, wagging its tail, very obedient. Suddenly, it bit my pants vigorously. The uneven ground began to tremble. The walls on both sides kept shedding dust. "It's an earthquake," someone shouted in panic. "Run." The scene became chaotic. I picked up 11 and ran desperately outside. The deafening noise of the house collapsing echoed in my ears. A wooden beam in front broke, and the debris from the roof fell simultaneously. My path was blocked. I could only hide in the corner of the load-bearing wall, hugging 11. 11 obediently nestled in my arms. The earthquake didn't stop. The falling debris kept cutting my face and body. Blood slowly oozed out, but luckily, the injuries were not severe. Time passed little by little. Feeling a bit faint, I asked, "Can we still live?" 11 barked, pressing his warm body against me. I smiled, "If we survive, I'll take you home." After a long time, I was almost falling asleep. 11 kept barking. "Here," someone yelled. Several sticks were inserted to pry apart the brick walls above. A few rays of light seeped in. I forced my eyes open, keeping my wits about me. "Save the little dog first." I lifted 11 out. I walked out of the ruins. Sean stood across. His face was dirty, eyes bloodshot. When he saw me, he rushed over and hugged me. His body trembled, voice choked with emotion. "You're alive, you're alive." I had no strength to push him away, just hummed in response. The medical staff treated my wounds, joking, "Little girl, is this your boyfriend?" The road into the village was blocked by a landslide. He climbed the mountain for 6 hours to get here. "Look, his hands are bleeding from digging through the rubble." I looked over. Sean's 10 fingers were stained with blood. "Thank you." I looked away. Sean grinned. "But we're not boyfriend and girlfriend." Sean's expression dimmed again. Later, reporters asked what was the relationship between me and Sean, for him to risk his life to come find me. I smiled and replied, "We used to be neighbors. He's like a big brother to me." Sean, standing there, suddenly had red eyes. He muttered, "Big brother." His tone was deeply wounded. Privately, he asked me how he could be considered a big brother. We shared kisses. We shared a bed. We even had a child together. My smile turned cold, as it was all stuff he said before. Sean staggered, pain filling his eyes. I just found him laughable. Saying he loved me, yet he betrayed me. Saying he didn't love me, yet acted affectionately. But whether he loves me or not, it's none of my business. I stopped caring. I ended up in the trending searches, once again carrying a bad reputation. Videos of Sean digging through the rubble surfaced. Then he was spotted multiple times lurking around my set. What does Sean mean by this? I felt sorry for Laura. Laura stepped in to escalate the situation. She posted a crying emoticon on Twitter, seeming to confirm the incident. And she was the victim. Many uninformed people flooded into my comment section, leaving unbearable insults. "Unmarried, pregnant, and had a miscarriage. Big sister. How dare you compare yourself to Laura? I don't get it. Is Sean blind?" That time, I was being criticized and trending, mocked for being unmarried, pregnant, and having a miscarriage. I didn't pay attention due to the pain of losing my child, and my team managed to push the trending topic down. This time, I went on Twitter and posted a photo of the divorce certificate. Shortly after, Sean also tweeted, "Married for 3 years, it's my fault for her." Netizens dug up the past. Public opinion immediately shifted. I was truly shocked. The beautiful first love I thought Sean and I had turned out to involve a mistress, having a wife, but still having ambiguous relationships with his first love, sensationalizing their romance. Sean, doesn't your conscience hurt? Jesse was wronged. Sean and Laura's reputation plummeted. Wild Love announced bankruptcy. No one was willing to pay for this movie anymore. Laura's acting career was ruined. She had given up acting when she went abroad. She only came back 5 years later, just to see Sean had already made a name for himself. "You guessed it," she said with a bitter smile. In Sean's memory, Laura shared the same dream with him. They agreed that one would become a famous director, while the other would become a shining star. So, Laura became Sean's muse of inspiration. She was the eternal flame of his love. However, was the real Laura like that? Due to her lack of fame, Laura had long given up on her dream of acting. And now, because Sean had become famous, Laura returned to the entertainment industry. She was never persistent enough. "Why didn't you leave a way out for me?" Laura questioned me. Laura's return to the entertainment circle was all about her image. Wild Love had lifted her up. Now, she had a stain on her reputation. Audiences would not accept an artist with a bad reputation. Her other projects were cancelled just like that. I said, "Laura, you didn't leave a way out for yourself. People with twisted hearts don't get far." I exposed all her various schemes. "You were putting all your efforts into how to win Sean back, how to deal with me. Yet, the only way to go is to tread your path with a clear conscience." Laura had a brief moment of fame in the entertainment industry, only to disappear without a trace. Her dream of stardom shattered. Meanwhile, Sean's career was also on a downward spiral. He was immersed in his failed relationship, unable to create anymore. The once brilliant director no longer had the ability to produce amazing works, and so, he faded into obscurity. But there was someone else. Lucy. I couldn't forget her. I discreetly fueled the fire and exposed the affair between Mr. Lee and her. Mr. Lee's wife was a domineering and powerful woman. Soon enough, there was news that Mr. Lee was left with nothing. Do you regret marrying Sean? A journalist asked me during an emotional interview. Many people were concerned about my failed marriage, seeing me as a fragile person in need of protection. So, I agreed to the interview. It was the first time I publicly told the full story. Even though this story had been twisted into different versions by others, I honestly said, I used to regret it, but I don't regret it now. When asked why, I smiled and said, I have come to understand that every step in life has its meaning. If I had the chance to do it again, with my thoughts and maturity back then, I would have made the same choice. I had loved Sean for 10 years. 10 years is too long. He had already become an obsession in my heart. So, even though I had brief relationships along the way, they never lasted. I suddenly felt that this marriage had to end. If I hadn't left, Youre would have been Sean's crush for life. He would have kept her in his heart forever. And had I not married him back then, Sean would have also been my crush for life. I would have forever idealized him. Would you reject a new relationship then? The journalist asked. I shook my head. The failure of a relationship is not always my failure, since relationships are two-way streets. It could very well be the other person's issue. I joked. I wouldn't reject a new person, because I no longer have anyone in my heart. As for being afraid of getting hurt, worrying in advance was quite unnecessary. At any time, I feel as long as there's the impulse to start and the courage to walk away, that's enough. I smiled at the camera. So, to all the netizens, don't worry about me. I'm really doing great. Gradually, I had distanced myself from Sean. He used wildfire to describe love. I used wildfire to describe myself. I wanted to burn in the vast wilderness, undying in a downpour, soaring in the wind. Later, holding 11, I stood on the awards stage. Best Supporting Actress award. I raised my trophy that belonged to me. The host asked if I had anything to say. In my eyes burned ambition. Without hesitation, I said, I hope to be standing here again next time. I hope when people talk about Jessie, they'll say she's a great actress. The applause thundered below. This was my Medal of Honor. 3 years later, I held the trophy for Best Actress. Opening the door, 11 wagged its tail to greet me at the entrance. As soon as it saw me, it affectionately jumped on me, making a familiar snorting sound. Missed me, huh? I casually placed the trophy on the shelf, picked up 11, rubbed its head. You've been waiting, haven't you, 11? 11 stuck out its tongue and licked my cheek. It made me burst into laughter. Who says this isn't home?